This happened on a trip a few years ago one night midweek when the park is usually quieter. I woke up having to use the bathroom around 2 a.m., so I left the trailer to go to the comfort stations. The site was one of those corner sites, so there's a really short trail in the back of the site through the woods before you get to the lights, where the washroom is. You can technically go around the front, but I figured I would just cut through there like I usually do to save time because I was tired. As I'm passing the middle of the trail, I hear a light noise that sounds like it's right beside my ear. It sounded like giggling. So I picked up the pace a little bit and started looking for a raccoon or porcupine or something. But I couldn't see anything or hear any twigs cracking, which I thought was weird. No sign of a person out there either. As soon as the last thought crossed my mind, I swear to this day that I heard something deeper in the woods, in a female voice, say, "Hello?" To say I jumped was an understatement. I sprinted full throttle to the lights, tripped on a log and ripped my pant leg and shin. I made it to the bathrooms alive, feeling painful and kind of stupid. Once I was at the comfort station, I did my business and talked myself out of it being anything unnatural like the good biologist that I am. I figured I must have just misheard a raccoon or something. I didn't really believe in the paranormal, so worst case, it was an actual person. I didn't feel like getting jumped by some weirdo while I'm out at night by myself, so I made the decision to take the longer way back in the open road and skip the shortcut. As I passed by the entranceway for the woods, giving it a wide berth if we're being honest, again, I can only tell you what I heard, but I swear as clear as day I heard a whisper that said, "Come back." I was camping in Northeast Ohio. By myself, I was on third and final night there. Woke up to piss, walked about 10 foot from my hammock, and noticed a headlamp about 100 foot from me. I watched it for about 10 minutes. I watched him stand up, sit down. I got my boots on and grabbed my hatchet and started walking to the right of my campsite. I was going to find out what he was up to. I got about 50 yards from my site and started walking towards him when I noticed another headlamp, about 40 feet from me and a half from him, walking around. I hit the ground and threw some leaves on me. He walked about 10 feet from where I was laying. Then he stopped, lit a cigarette, and finished his beer. He threw his can on the ground. After he got far enough that he couldn't hear me, I got up and started walking towards the first guy. I got close enough to him that I can hear his phone receiving messages. I moved up closer to him quietly, to where I can see his face lit up from his cell phone. That's when he stood up and started walking towards my hammock. I laid there on the ground for a minute and made my way towards my site. I stopped when I started hearing my tarp that I had above my hammock being trashed. Then I could see flashlights, and then my big flashlight turn on and off. I heard my mess kit being thrown on the floor and then calling my name from somewhere inside. No sign of him. They were transformed. I laid on the ground and watched my flashlight walk away until it was a small, dim light. When the sun came up and I returned, my whole site was destroyed. My hammock and tarp were shredded by what looked like a machete. My mess kit was stomped on. They took my backpack, rain gear, and flashlight. I went to the spot where I seen the first guy and found chew pouches, 8 empty beer can, and an empty lighter. Bye-bye. I walked to where I seen the other guy and found an empty bag of powder which turned up to be meth, a mess of cigarette butts, and a pile of shit, with no toilet paper to be found. I used to like to go out to my grandparents' property in the middle of nowhere by myself and just walk out into the woods and find a random spot and make that my camp for the night. My dad had told me that supposedly there had been an old farmstead nearby a very long time ago, but I'm not sure about the validity of that. But one time I had built myself a half-faced brush shelter and slept through the night fairly well. It was early morning as the sun was just coming up, and I had pulled the light blanket over my face. It was thin enough that I could just see through it, and as I was starting to wake up, I saw what looked like two men standing outside my shelter, staring down at me. I could not make out faces, but they were wearing those old-time wide-brimmed hats. Not cowboy hats, but like the kind settlers wore. They didn't do anything but stand there, like they were curious. I sort of woke all the way up and pulled the blanket down quick, and there was nobody there. I'm sure it was just a dream,